Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Diane Helbig, Rhonda Bompensa-Zimmerman, and Philip Tate. The question I want to ask, what do you do when someone gives you a gift you don't like and you won't use? Philip, can you kick us off?
You know, when you asked this question, I had to chuckle a little bit, and I talked to my wife about it a little bit earlier. I said, I remember when we got married more than 30 years ago, and we had a bevy of trays. Trays must have been the gift back then, right? So we had tons of trays. And in particular, we got this hideous looking shell tray. And again, we sent the thank you note, and we were appreciative they were able to send a gift. We took that tray to as many potluck suppers as we possibly could in hopes that we could just leave it behind. And it always found its way home. So sometimes your best efforts fail on something like that.
What popped up for me was I went back 30 years to a gift my grandmother had given me, which was actually a regift that I had given her when I was a teen.
Oh, no.
Before regifting was a thing. So we're taught as young children, it's the thought that counts. So for me, really, whenever I receive a gift, it's really about that quality time with that person that maybe I don't have a lot of interaction with. And regardless of what the thing is, it's that relationship.
You know, I went back in time. This is so funny. So when I saw the question, it reminded me that years ago, many, probably 20 years ago, my brother would complain that my mother was getting him gifts that he had absolutely no interest in. Honestly, she was doing the same thing for me, and I'm sure she was doing it for my sister. But he would tell her, which really hurt her feelings. And she really had no sense of who he was. He lived in another state. He was an adult, you know, quite an adult, whatever. I said to him, because he asked me, he said, you know, what are you doing? I said, I am grateful that for that amount of time, she was thinking about me, that she was spending time with me in her mind, and that it's not about the thing that she gave me that I'm never, ever going to use. It's about that she was dedicating energy toward me for a period of time, and that she bought me something that reminded her of me for whatever reason, right? It didn't really matter, because she used to send me jewelry that was like really, I would have loved when I was 13. So, you know, when I was in my 40s. So it's just sort of crazy. But that, I mean, you know, for me, I think it has to be that way, because they don't do it for any other reason, really. So
I think you have a couple of options. So I have determined as a grown-up, I do not keep stuff in my house I'm not going to use, like get gifts and then be like, oh, well, I have to keep it and stick it in a closet somewhere. So I either find someone who might want it, you know, whatever. I find a way to get it out of my house if I'm not going to use it. But I do have a story from back in my 20s when I was seeing someone who bought me jewelry, and he gave it to me, and I realized I am never going to wear this. This is so not me. And at the time I said to him, I'm very thankful. I appreciate it. I would only ever wear this as a favor to you. Can you return it? Can we go pick something else out that I'm going to actually wear?
Wow.
And we did. And I still have the earrings. I still wear those earrings. I'm still friends with him. And so I reached out to him yesterday and was like, how was that experience for you? And he said, in the moment, once he got over the sting of I bought her something she doesn't like, he was actually very thankful, and that he is so honored that I still wear something that he bought 25 years ago. So I think that if we do a good job of having a relationship and being kind and saying, thank you so much, what are our options? Assuming there are options. Sometimes there aren't.
Can I just say that my husband, God bless him, is terrible at buying me. Well, he used to be, not as bad anymore, but terrible. Like he bought me a charm bracelet that was Wizard of Oz charms.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, we got married in our 30s. So it was like, well, that's not, you know, a Tigger watch, because Tigger was his favorite character, and it was a children's watch. Like, it didn't even fit. Okay. So we got to a place where that works really well, where he will tell me what he wants me to have for whatever the occasion is, and I will go get it.
Oh, okay.
Because then I'll get what I want. Everyone's happy, right? He feels good, but he doesn't just leave it up. If he left it up to me to say, you know, go buy yourself a present, I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't be happy about it. But he will say, I want you to have a sweater, you know, this kind of
Okay.
sweater, and I'll just go get one that is the color I want, that, whatever. And it works out perfectly.
The men can be taught, Diane. So, I mean, I think that's genius on your part to do it that way. I think generally when these things come up, again, I think you pick up on what you all said. You're wanting to acknowledge certainly and thank the person because it's coming from a good place. And even though the object or the gift may not be what you want, there's an opportunity to either regift it, perhaps donate it to a charity. We do that, we go through and purge the closet or find gifts in the closet or what have you. Take it to Goodwill, take it to Salvation Army, take it to some place where maybe someone else will find it. One man's trash is another man's treasure. When there's an opportunity to do that, I think that's a way to find its best home in the world.
I think it's good to have conversations too about the whole idea of gift giving. I mean, I know it's one of the 5 love languages, but like my husband is not comfortable with gifts. Like he's more into quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation. And that actually feels pressure for him to like actually stop, do the thing, buy the thing, and all these ideas of these expectations of what I would enjoy. Like that's a lot of pressure. And we're only 3 years in the marriage, although we've known each other all our life. Just some people just aren't really comfortable giving or receiving gifts. So I think, if we keep that in our mindset, and then have those heartfelt conversations, I appreciate that you were thinking of me. What prompted you to get whatever the item was that maybe we didn't really have any kind of connection in our space, that this would be something that we would even conceive using, but that could open up the doors to some wonderful conversations.
I think another thing too is, was the gift a gift of obligation? So sometimes you have business associates or whatever, and they feel like they should give you something, and they give you something that you're just like, this is something they felt like they needed to have something to hand me. She's pointing at stuff in the background.
It's an object just that kind of sits there.
Right.
There's no relationship. Yeah.
Things like that. I have less angst about regifting or donating or whatever. I get mugs, wine glasses, like things like that. Those are gifts that I get that I'm like, okay, thank you. I appreciate you thought of me. I have nowhere to put it.
Well, and Rhonda touched on this. I think as I get older, and my wife feels the same way, I value experiences, travel, being with family, being with friends. Those experiences are more important for me as opportunities to make memories than to have a thing, a tangible thing. And that's something I've noticed really as I've gotten older. And I think Marie Kondo hit on that with her Netflix series on, if it doesn't give you joy, get rid of it, give it away, find a place where it can provide joy to someone else.
I've come to the point where I try to give gifts that are usable. And then they go away. Like I gave a friend for Christmas a big, huge thing. It was a sunflower of bird seed that she could hang out because she has a big bird feeder and she could hang out and then it goes away. My latest thing that I've been giving people is balsamic vinegar. I'm very into like fancy balsamic vinegars. Use it, throw the bottle away. It's not taking up space. So I try to be conscientious when I give gifts of not giving things that sit on a shelf.
Consumables are great. Gift baskets, cookie baskets, things like that can be shared, enjoyed, wine and cheese, whatever.
Super easy to re-gift if you happen to be vegan and don't eat that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like the idea of spontaneous gifts too. So it's not necessarily on those special holiday capitalist kind of, days where there's an expectation, but there's little tiny gestures, like for my husband, going back to him, like if he stops at the 7-Eleven or something, just grabs something and then leaves it on the pillow, that regardless of what the thing is, there's so much meaning there. And, so for everybody, it just feels a little different and looks a little different.
And I think if you're in a relationship with people and there's going to be opportunities where they give you gifts, how wonderful is it to have that conversation and say, what are your expectations? My husband used to always buy me cards for holidays. That's a big thing in his family. And I was like, I don't need you to spend $7 on a card. That's not a thing for me. And having that conversation eliminated that as an issue for us. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. It is about the communication, right? Under being able to feeling comfortable having that conversation instead of just sort of holding it in. And then if you live with them, they realize that you're not doing anything with the thing. And then there's feeling that goes on with that that's unnecessary.
It always gets worse. Like my friend said, that moment of discomfort was so much worth the end result for us.
Right.
So that is our 10 minutes. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to speaking to each of you again soon.